All right. One thing that could affect everything going on in this neck of the woods is housing in that neck of the woods, and maybe even your neck of the woods. Here to explain that in a little bit more detail is Brian Montgomery, the former FHA commissioner. Brian, a lot of people are looking at what's going on there, and they can understand if housing is stymied and rebuilding is delayed there. But what's the effect beyond there?
Well, certainly once the floodwaters recede, families will be able to return home. There'll be a widespread assessment as people reach out to their insurance companies. Some people obviously be in shelters. You could imagine all levels of destruction. Maybe some homes just need repair. Some will have to be raised. I was heavily involved at HUD after Katrina, and we're actually down here in Houston. We were here for vacation, believe it or not. And what I've seen so far, damage-wise, has just been significant.
So what happens then later? I was referring earlier that it's supposed to all even out, or that's the sort of economic lore that says whatever's stopped, again, eventually rebuilding ensues once the floodwaters die down. It's going to lead to a pickup in housing economic activity. What do you see happening?
Well, it's tough to say this early. You know, we hear very often we've had yet another 500-year flood, yet it's only 10 years later. You know, Houston got slammed with Hurricanes Ike and Rita, and then a large thunderstorm cell in Memorial Day, known as the Memorial Day floods in 2015. Yet here we are 2 years later having another one. That said, there's never been anything like this. If you look at the flood control district maps, almost every tributary, bayou, creek has been topped, and obviously your viewers can see that evident in all the flooding.
You know, Brian, I always wondered, too, I know there's been a great deal of building going on in Houston. It's a booming economic city, energy, and so much else. I guess they've been adding 30,000 residents since 2010. It's been virtually nonstop, and a lot of that building was in areas where it was best not to build. So going forward, and I know this happened in the New Jersey, New York neck of the woods after Sandy, they revisited where they could build. Do you see something like that happening in Texas?
Well, I suspect you'll see others weigh in, expressing opinion of that. You know, at some point, the water needs somewhere to run off, right? You can't just have concrete everywhere. And so it's sort of the good news, bad news of an area that's been booming for some time.
You know, this may be slightly outside your area. Well, I don't think it is. There are a lot of people looking at this, and I was shocked to see that only 1 out of 5 homeowners in that area, I don't know if that number is a hard, reliable number, but something to that effect, don't have flood insurance. Now, that surprised me because I think a lot of banks that hold mortgages demand you have that coverage, and in fact will buy it for you based on, you know, whatever you have in your loan to make sure you do. So isn't that going to affect any rebuilding that goes on later on?
Well, it certainly could. According to some statistics, about 600,000 Texans have flood insurance. Not surprisingly, 250,000 of those are in the Houston area, but that's out of 1.6 million households. Now, some people aren't in a floodplain, certainly others are, but the federal government, as we learned after Hurricane Katrina and others, does have other tools in their toolbox, including assistance from the Federal Housing Administration and others. I suspect.
Yep, we lost him there, and this is not surprising given the harsh weather conditions there. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it. But again, a lot of the problem, and it's only coming to us now, this notion that a lot of homeowners, even though they thought that they were safe, even in these dangerous areas, don't have coverage, don't have flood coverage. Now, a lot of mortgage holders, a lot of banks require that you do, particularly in flood-prone areas. They take it out of your escrow, that sort of thing. But a lot of them do not, or that a lot of people delayed and put off when it amounted to much higher premiums. And then a lot of people were grandfathered into this. They didn't have the coverage. They weren't required to get the coverage. And now they're regretting that they do not have that coverage, because right now they have the worst of both worlds. No home, no coverage, no way out. More to this.